In today's tutorial, we will be painting Space Marine Flesh. I have primed the model in gray as it provides a great balance between black and white, which makes it for an easier opportunity to go with a muted scheme or a bright bold scheme. For our base coat, we're going to use the old foundation paint of Tolaran Flesh. After watering it down, we're going to focus our attention on the flesh areas. Being a base coat, we don't have to be entirely neat. However, I find it is useful to try to keep within the confines of the flesh areas for the later steps. Being of the old foundation line, one pass should be more than enough to get good, smooth coverage for a base color. For our shades, we're going to be doing a mix of Lich Purple, Scorched Brown, and Tolaran Flesh. This mix is going to be roughly equal parts. You can leverage it a little bit more towards purple or the brown depending on your own preferences. This will create a nice warm shading to the cheekbones, the hairline, and giving the model some nice character. Depending on the final look you're going for, you can apply this wash as many times as you would desire. For my purposes, I only went with 2 passes. Once the wash is dried, this provides you with the best opportunity to paint the eyes. This is because if you make any missteps, it'll be easier to go back over and cover up those mistakes as we move forward. So we're going to take our fine detail brush and we're going to paint Chaos Black over the pupils. In some cases, this will be a little bit tricky depending on the size of the eyes. As you'll note with this model, it has taken me a couple times to try to get the closest eye showing to us. Another helpful trick is to add a thin black line between his lips and any other scarring the model may have, which in this case he does not have a whole lot. When we're happy with the black placement, we're going to get our skull white. Using an even finer tipped brush, we're going to apply a thin line over across the pupils. The trick is to make sure some black does remain outlining the white areas of the eye. Once we have the whites painted, it's time to focus on the pupils. For this, we're just going to apply a small black dot in the center of the eyes. Also using this opportunity to apply the black layer on both the rivets upon his forehead. This is jumping ahead a couple of steps, however, it's just easy enough to do while you've got the paint out. For our first highlight layer, we're basically going to be reapplying our base color. So we're going to be bringing out the Tolaran Flesh on its own, and we're going to focus our attention on all the raised and smooth areas such as the sides of his head, the bridge of his nose, his cheekbones, jawline, and his brows. Even after one highlight layer, we're able to see the character coming through from our shading. For our highlight, we're going to be using incremental amounts of bleached bone. We're going to focus on the ridges of his nose, his brows, basically all the areas we hit before, but we're just reducing the highlight area. So with that highlight layer done, you can already see the difference it's made. As already stated, we're just adding more amounts of the bleach bone to our mix. What these highlights are doing are creating focal points for the viewers by picking out details such as his nose, his jawline, cheeks, and even the smooth flat areas of his bald head. We're creating visual interest in our work. Again, we're just going to keep working these highlights by adding small amounts of bleach bone to our mix. We can work this up almost to a pure bleach bone, if not pure on its own. It just depends on how pale you're going to want the final model to look. In this case, I'm working up to a full bleached bone. That's because the final diorama is going to be rather dark, as is the Marine's armor. I want the attention to be the expression in the Lord Executioner's face in the final piece. So by making it a fairly bright skin tone, the effect will help draw the viewer's eye to the central character. When we're done highlighting, we're actually going to go back over with a more diluted version of our wash. This will act as a glaze to help tile those highlight layers together, as well as further enhancing the shade layers. Once this is dried, you can see how much character the shading has created in the model, as well as how bright the flesh is for a dark scheme or diorama. I've also taken the time to black out the next stages, such as the metallic neck brace, metal plating on his cheeks, and even his hair. If you want to take the extra step and push the model further, you can add some scorched brown gray into a Talaran flesh into a small glaze, and apply it as stubble along the sides of his hair and his jawline. This will help add a nice grizzled tough guy look for your Space Marine.